I, 28F, have a mother who loves me too much. That is what she always told me. She said her love was a shield. She said it would protect me from the world and from my own bad choices. For a long time, I think I believed her. It was easier to believe her than to fight her. Her love felt like a heavy blanket. Sometimes it was warm. Other times, I could not breathe underneath it. My partner, Alex, 29M, was the first person who made me feel like I could push the blanket off. He did not see me as someone who needed protecting. He saw me as a person who could make her own choices. My mother, Helen, did not like that at all. She never said she hated him. That was not her way. She used small words like sharp little needles. She would say things like, "It is nice that Alex is so relaxed about his career." Or, "Are you sure you two have enough in common for the long run?" She was planting seeds of doubt. I ignored her. I loved Alex. I thought our love was stronger than her quiet poison. I was wrong. It was not our love that was weak. It was that I had underestimated her. I did not understand the lengths she would go to in order to keep me under that heavy blanket. The whole thing started when I had to go away for a 2-week work training program. It was in a different state, a 6-hour flight away. I was nervous about it, but Alex was my biggest supporter. He helped me pack. He made sure I had everything I needed. He drove me to the airport the night before I left. He held me and told me how proud he was of me. He said 2 weeks would fly by. He promised to call every single night. We had a plan. We would talk before bed, no matter how tired I was from the training. It felt like a perfect goodbye. He kissed me at the security gate, and I watched him walk away. I felt a pang of sadness, but also excitement. This was a big step for my job. It was a step toward a future Alex and I were building together. The first 3 days were exactly as we planned. He called every night. We talked about my day, about his day. He told me he missed me. I told him I missed him more. His voice was a comfort. It was the best part of my long, stressful days. On the 4th day, he did not call. I waited by my phone in the hotel room. I watched the clock tick past our usual time. I told myself he was just busy. Maybe he fell asleep early. I sent him a text message. It said, "Hey you, missed your call. Hope everything is okay. Talk to you tomorrow. Love you." The message showed it was delivered. I fell asleep feeling a little uneasy, but I tried to push it away. The next day, there was no reply to my text. That night, he did not call again. Now I was worried. This was not like him. I called his phone. It went straight to voicemail. His mailbox was full. I could not even leave a message. I tried calling him 5 more times. Each time, the same result. Straight to a full voicemail box. A cold feeling started to creep into my stomach. I tried texting him again. This time, my message did not say delivered. It just sat there, unsent. It was like his phone was turned off. Or worse, like my number was blocked. I could not understand it. Why would he block me? We had not fought. We were happy. I called my mother. I needed to hear a familiar voice. I needed someone to tell me I was overreacting. Her voice was syrupy sweet when she answered. "Hello, sweetie. How is the training going?" she asked. I told her it was fine. Then I told her I could not reach Alex. I explained that he had not called and his phone was off. I expected her to be surprised. I expected her to offer solutions. Instead, she was quiet for a moment. Then she sighed softly. It was a practice sound, full of fake sadness. "Oh, honey," she said. "I did not want to be the one to tell you this." My heart stopped. I felt the blood drain from my face. "Tell me what?" I asked. My voice was barely a whisper. "What happened?" There was another pause. She was drawing it out. She was making sure the drama landed perfectly. "Alex came by the house a couple of days ago," she said. "He dropped off a box of your things." I was completely confused. A box of my things? What things? Most of my stuff was at our shared apartment. What are you talking about? I asked her. Why would he do that? She made a little clucking sound with her tongue. He said some things, sweetie, she began. He said he felt like you two were growing apart. He said your work trip made him realize he needed something different. Every word she said felt like a punch. I could not breathe. Growing apart? Needed something different? This made no sense. We were just talking about moving in together permanently and maybe getting a dog. We were planning our future. No, I said. That is not true. He would not do that. He would talk to me. My mother's voice became firm, like she was talking to a child having a tantrum. Maya, I know this is hard to hear, she said, but some men are cowards. He could not face you, so he did it while you were away. He asked me to tell you. He said he needed a clean break. I started crying then. The tears were hot and they came so fast. I could not believe it. Alex, my Alex, the kindest man I knew, would end our relationship through my mother? It was impossible. But the evidence was there. His phone was off. He was not calling me. My mother's story, as cruel as it was, seemed to be the only explanation. I spent the rest of my work trip in a fog. I went to the sessions. I took notes. I smiled when I was supposed to. But inside, I was shattered. My mother called me every day. She was so supportive. She told me I was strong. She told me I would get through this. She said she was cleaning out my old room for me at her house. She said I could stay there as long as I needed to when I got back. She kept saying, I always knew he was not the one for you, sweetie. A mother always knows. Her words were meant to be comforting, but they made my skin crawl. It felt like she was happy about this. It felt like she had won something. I tried to push that thought away. I told myself I was just hurt and looking for someone to blame. My mother was just trying to help. When I finally flew home, the dread in my stomach was a heavy stone. I did not want to go back to the apartment I had shared with Alex. I did not want to see his empty spaces. So I let my mother pick me up from the airport. She hugged me tightly. It is all going to be okay, she whispered in my ear. She drove me back to her house, to my childhood bedroom. It was exactly as I had left it years ago, except the bed was made with fresh sheets. There was a box in the corner. My mother pointed to it. That is the box he dropped off, she said, her voice full of pity. I walked over to it slowly. I was afraid to open it. It felt so final. I knelt down and lifted the flaps. Inside were a few of my books. A sweatshirt I sometimes left at his place, and the spare key he had to my car. It was not much, but it was enough to make the story feel real. For the first week, I was a ghost. I barely ate. I did not talk to my friends. I just stayed in my old room and cried. My mother took care of everything. She brought me food. She sat with me and watched movies. She kept repeating how much better off I was. You are free now, she would say. You can focus on your career. You do not have some boy holding you back. I did not have the energy to argue with her. I just let her words wash over me. A part of me was starting to believe her. Maybe Alex had been holding me back. Maybe he was a coward. Maybe I had been blind to his flaws because I was so in love. The anger started to replace the sadness. How could he do this to me? How could he be so cruel as to end things this way without a single word to me directly? I decided I needed to get my things from the apartment. I could not put it off forever. I needed that closure. I asked my mother if she would come with me. I did not want to go alone. She agreed immediately. Of course, sweetie, she said. I will be right there with you. We drove to the apartment in silence. I had my key in my hand. It felt cold and foreign. I stood in front of the door for a long time, taking deep breaths. I could hear my mother's gentle encouragement from behind me. You can do this, Maya. Be strong. I finally put the key in the lock and turned it. The door swung open. The apartment was dark and quiet. It smelled stale, like no one had been there in a while. I stepped inside and flipped on the light switch. And then I saw it. Everything was exactly as I had left it. Alex's shoes were by the door. His jacket was on the back of a chair. A coffee mug he had used was still on the counter. It did not look like someone had moved out. It looked like someone had just stepped out for a moment and was about to come right back. My mother made a noise behind me. "Oh, the nerve of him," she said. "He did not even bother to pack up his junk." I walked further into the apartment. I went into our bedroom. His side of the bed was unmade. His clothes were in the closet. Everything was there. This was not the apartment of a man who had moved out. This was the apartment of a man who was missing. The cold feeling in my stomach returned, but this time it was not sadness. It was suspicion. A tiny, dark thought started to form in my mind. It was too ugly to look at directly, so I pushed it down. "This is weird," I said to my mother. "It looks like he is still living here." My mother walked past me and started opening drawers. "He probably just has not gotten around to it yet," she said dismissively. "He is probably staying with a friend. Let us just get your things and go." But I could not shake the feeling that something was very wrong. I looked at the box of my things that he had supposedly dropped off at my mother's house. A sweatshirt, some books, a car key. Why those specific things? It did not make sense. I started packing my clothes, but my mind was racing. I was replaying every conversation I had with my mother over the past 2 weeks. I remembered the sigh. I remembered her saying, "I did not want to be the one to tell you." It had sounded so rehearsed, so practiced. I looked over at her. She was humming a little tune as she folded one of my sweaters. She looked perfectly calm. She looked happy. And that is when I knew. I did not know how she did it. I did not know why. But I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that she was lying. Alex had not left me. My mother had done something to make him disappear from my life. I did not say anything to her. I pretended to believe her story. I packed up my belongings in silence, my mind a whirlwind of confusion and growing anger. Every time she offered a helpful suggestion or a comforting word, it felt like a twist of a knife. I had to get out of there. I had to get away from her so I could think. I finished packing my essential items and told her I was ready to go. On the drive back to her house, she was cheerful. She talked about all the things we could do now that I was free. We could take a trip together. We could redecorate my room. She was planning a new life for me. A life without Alex. A life with just her. I just nodded along, my stomach in knots. I felt like I was in a movie, playing a part. The part of the grieving daughter who was leaning on her loving mother. But underneath, I was a detective, and my mother was the prime suspect in the disappearance of my entire future. Back at her house, I went straight to my room and closed the door. I needed a plan. I had no proof, only a terrible gut feeling. Confronting her directly would do no good. She would deny everything. She would call me hysterical and tell me I was just heartbroken. She would gaslight me until I doubted my own sanity. I had seen her do it to other people my whole life. I had never imagined she would do it to me. I had to find proof. I had to find out what really happened to Alex. My first thought was his family. I had met his parents a few times. They lived in another state. I did not have their phone number saved, but I knew their names. I went online and searched for them. I found a possible number for his mother, Sarah. My hand was shaking as I dialed it. I did not even know what I was going to say. A woman answered on the second ring. "Hello?" she said. It was her. I recognized her voice. "Hello, Sarah. This is Maya," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Alex's girlfriend." There was a pause on the other end of the line. It was a cold, heavy silence. Then she spoke, and her voice was filled with a polite but firm distance. "I think you have the wrong number," she said. My son Alex does not have a girlfriend named Maya. I was so shocked I could not speak. What? Yes, he does. It is me. We have been together for 2 years. I heard her sigh. It was a tired, frustrated sound. Listen, she said, her voice sharp now. I do not know who you are or what kind of game you're playing, but Alex told us all about his breakup. He told us his girlfriend was moving across the country for a new job and wanted a clean break. He was devastated. He came home to stay with us. So please, leave him alone. He is trying to move on. And then she hung up. I stood there holding my phone, listening to the dial tone. My whole body was trembling. Moving across the country? A new job? A clean break? These were lies. They were elaborate, specific lies. And Alex believed them. My mother had not just broken up with him. She had created an entirely new reality. She had poisoned him against me so thoroughly that he had packed up his life and moved back home, thinking I had abandoned him without a second thought. The sheer scale of the deception was breathtaking. This was not a simple lie. This was a campaign. She had systematically destroyed my relationship and my reputation with the man I loved and his entire family. The anger I felt was so immense, so pure, it burned away all the sadness and confusion. There was only one thing left. I was going to expose her. I was going to make her answer for what she had done. And I was going to get Alex back. My quiet life was over. The war had just begun. My first step was to find a way to contact Alex directly. His phone was off, and his mother had made it clear I was not welcome to call her again. I thought about his social media. I had checked it before, and it was gone. But maybe I had missed something. I created a new, anonymous social media account. I did not use my name or picture. I searched for Alex's friends, people I knew he was close to. I found his best friend, a guy named Ben. I sent him a message. I kept it simple. Hi, Ben. I am a friend of Maya's. I am trying to get an urgent message to Alex. Can you please ask him to check his email? It is very important. I did not know if it would work. Ben might just ignore a message from a random account, but it was my only shot. Then I composed an email to Alex. I wrote it and rewrote it a dozen times. I had to get the tone right. I could not sound crazy. I had to sound like myself. I told him everything. I told him I had been at a work training. I told him I had tried to call and text him. I told him what my mother had said. And then I told him what his mother had said to me. I wrote, Alex, I never broke up with you. I am not moving across the country. I love you. My mother lied to you. She lied to both of us. Please, just talk to me. Let me explain. I do not know what she said to you, but it was not the truth. I attached a photo of us from the week before I left for my trip. We were at the park, smiling. We looked so happy. I sent the email and then I waited. The waiting was the hardest part. Every minute felt like an hour. I stayed in my room, pretending to be sad and withdrawn. My mother kept checking on me, bringing me tea and patting my head. It took every ounce of self-control I had not to scream at her. I just smiled weakly and thanked her. I was playing my part. I was the broken bird she was nursing back to health. She had no idea the bird was just waiting for its wings to heal so it could fly away and never come back. 2 days passed. There was no reply from Alex. I started to lose hope. Maybe Ben never gave him the message. Maybe Alex saw the email and deleted it, thinking it was just a desperate lie from an ex he no longer wanted. The thought made me sick. My mother was getting more confident. She started talking about the future in more concrete terms. She mentioned a man she wanted me to meet. He was the son of her best friend, Carol. His name is David, she said one evening as we were eating dinner. He is a lawyer, very successful, very stable, not like some people who have no direction. The jab at Alex was clear. I just stirred my soup and said nothing. I felt a new wave of disgust for her. She had not just removed Alex. She had a replacement all lined up. I was not a person to her. I was a doll she could dress up and pair with whichever partner she chose. That night, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling when my phone buzzed. It was a new email. My heart leaped into my throat. The sender was an address I did not recognize. The subject line was just one word. Maya? I opened it with trembling fingers. It was from Alex. The email was short. It said, I got your message through Ben. I do not know what to believe. I have an email from you, from your account, from 2 weeks ago. It says you are moving to Oregon for a job you got offered and you did not want to do a long-distance relationship. It says you were sorry for the timing, but it was a clean break. Is that email not from you? My blood ran cold. She had used my email account. She had impersonated me. This was so much worse than I had imagined. She had not just told him a story. She had created fake evidence to back it up. I immediately wrote back. Alex, I swear to you, I did not write that email. I was in a training seminar all day on the day that email was sent. I can prove it. My mother must have gone on my laptop while I was away. She knew my password. I never thought she would do something like this. Please, Alex, you have to believe me. I hit send. The ball was in his court now. He had 2 conflicting stories, one from an email that looked like it came from me, and one from me now, telling him it was all a lie. Who would he believe? The woman he thought had dumped him cruelly, or the evidence right in front of his eyes? I felt a sliver of hope. Alex was smart. He was logical. He would see that the story did not make sense. He knew I would never break up with him in an email. He knew I would never take a job in another state without even discussing it with him. He just needed to think about it. A few hours later, another email came through. This one was longer. He said, Maya, I am so confused. My head is spinning. Your mom called me the day after you left. She was crying. She said you were having second thoughts about us. She said you felt trapped. Then, a few days later, I got that email. It sounded so final. I called you, but your phone went straight to voicemail. I texted, but the messages would not go through. It seemed like you had blocked me. I was so hurt I just packed a bag and came home to my parents. I did not know what else to do. My mother had not just sent an email. She had called him first, laying the groundwork. She had blocked his number from my phone. The plan was meticulous. It was diabolical. She had thought of everything. I replied instantly. She blocked you, Alex. I did not. She must have done it from my phone before I left, or from my online account. She has all my passwords. I have always been too trusting. I know this sounds crazy. I know it sounds like something out of a movie. But it is the truth. She did not want us to be together. She wanted me to be dependent on her. Please, can we talk? On the phone or a video call. I need you to hear my voice. I need to see you. I knew a video call was a risk. If he saw my face, he would see the truth. But if he was still too hurt, he might say no. I waited, my anxiety at an all-time high. The reply came back in less than a minute. Okay, it said. Let's talk. Send me a link. We set up a video call for the next day. I had to be careful. I had to make sure my mother did not overhear me. I waited until she went out to her book club. She gave me a kiss on the cheek before she left. Try to get some rest, sweetie, she said. You still look so pale. I wanted to recoil from her touch. I just smiled and nodded. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I ran to my room, locked the door, and opened my laptop. I sent Alex the link. A few seconds later, his face appeared on my screen. He looked terrible. He had dark circles under his eyes. He had not shaved. He looked like he had been through hell. And he had. My mother had put him there. Seeing him, all the anger and the need for revenge melted away for a moment, and all I felt was a profound sadness for what had been done to us. Maya, he said. His voice was rough. Hearing it was like a balm on my soul. Alex, I whispered. It is so good to see you. We just looked at each other for a long time. There were so many things to say, I did not know where to start. He spoke first. Tell me everything, he said. From the beginning. Do not leave anything out. And so I did. I told him about my trip. I told him about my calls going to voicemail. I told him about the conversation with my mother, the box of my things, the strange state of the apartment. I told him about calling his mom. As I spoke, I watched his face. His expression shifted from confusion to suspicion to dawning horror. He did not interrupt me. He just listened. When I was finished, he was pale. He looked sick. She sent me an email, Maya, he said. His voice strained. She forwarded it to me just now. The one you said you did not write. He shared his screen with me. And there it was. An email from my account sent 2 weeks ago. It was written in a style that was close to mine, but not quite right. It was a little too formal, a little too cold. It talked about a new career opportunity in Oregon that was too good to pass up. It said that a clean break was for the best. It wished him well. Reading it felt like being violated. My mother had not just used my email account. She had stolen my voice. She had used it to break the heart of the man I loved. I did not write that, Alex, I said, tears streaming down my face. I would never, ever say those things to you. Not like that. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. I could see the conflict in his face. He was at a crossroads. He could believe the lie that had shattered his world, or he could believe me. I need proof, Maya, he said finally. His voice was soft, but firm. I want to believe you. God, you have no idea how much I want to believe you. But this is insane. My mind cannot accept that someone's mother would do this. I need something concrete. Something that proves she was lying. I understood. He was not being cruel. He was being cautious. His trust had been betrayed in the worst way. He needed something undeniable. Okay, I said, my resolve hardening. I will get it for you. I will find the proof. Just do not give up on me, please. He nodded slowly. I will wait, he said. But be careful, Maya. If what you are saying is true, your mother is... She is dangerous. We said our goodbyes and the screen went dark. I was alone again in my childhood bedroom. But now I had a mission. Alex had given me a chance. I was not going to waste it. I had to find a way to expose my mother's lies, not just to Alex, but to everyone. She was not going to get away with this. My first thought was the email itself. If she sent it from my laptop, there might be a digital footprint. I was not a computer expert, but I knew about things like IP addresses. I opened my email and looked at the sent folder. The email to Alex was there. I opened it and looked for the details. I found the option to show original message. It was mostly a jumble of code I did not understand. But I saw a line that said client IP, followed by a string of numbers. I quickly Googled how to trace an IP address. The results told me it could give a general location of where the email was sent from. I copied the numbers and pasted them into a free online lookup tool. My heart was pounding. A map appeared on the screen with a pin dropped on it. The pin was right on top of my mother's house. It was sent from here. This was good. This was a start. But it was not enough. My mother could claim I sent it from her house before I left for my trip. I needed more. I thought about her phone and her computer. She was not very tech-savvy. She probably did not know how to cover her tracks. I needed access to her devices, but she guarded her phone like a hawk, and her computer was password protected. I had to be smart about this. I decided to start with something simpler. I needed to know more about this man she wanted to set me up with, David. She had said he was her friend Carol's son. I knew Carol. She was my mother's closest friend, her partner in gossip. If my mother had a plan, Carol was probably in on it. I went on social media and looked up Carol's son. I found his profile easily. He was a lawyer, just like my mother had said. He looked smug in his profile picture. As I scrolled through his photos, I saw one that made my stomach turn. It was a photo of him and my mother having lunch together. The photo was dated. It was from 3 weeks ago, before I had even left for my trip. The caption, written by him, said, "Great lunch with my future mother-in-law, Helen. Looking forward to meeting your lovely daughter Maya soon." I took a screenshot of the photo and the caption. My hands were shaking with rage. This was not a recent idea. This was a premeditated plot. She had been planning to get rid of Alex and replace him with this man for weeks. She had already been calling herself his mother-in-law. The arrogance, the disrespect, it was staggering. I saved the screenshot. This was my second piece of proof. It showed her motive. It showed that she had a replacement waiting in the wings before Alex was even out of the picture. This was not about my happiness. This was about her control. She wanted to choose my partner. She wanted to design my life. I felt a surge of adrenaline. I was on the right track. I was gathering my ammunition. The next day, I put the next phase of my plan into action. I needed to get into her computer. I waited until she was in the garden. I went into her home office. I sat down at her desk and tried to turn on her laptop. It asked for a password. I tried all the usual things. Her birthday, my birthday, the dog's name. Nothing worked. I was about to give up when I noticed a small sticky note attached to the bottom of the monitor. On it was a single word: Sunshine. It was the nickname my father used to call me when I was a little girl. My mother had always hated it. Using it as her password felt like a twisted little secret, a way of owning something that was not hers. I typed in the word. The computer unlocked. I was in. I did not have much time. I went straight to her email. I searched for Alex's name. There were no emails to him. She must have deleted them permanently. I searched for David's name. Bingo. There were dozens of emails between her and Carol, and between her and David himself. I started reading. It was all there, a complete timeline of their plot. They had been planning this for months. There were emails where my mother complained about Alex, calling him lazy and unambitious. There were emails where Carol praised her son David, talking about his fancy job and his new car. They had discussed how to get Alex out of the picture. In one email, my mother wrote, "Maya's work trip is the perfect opportunity. I will handle the Alex situation while she is gone. By the time she gets back, she will be single and ready for a real man like your David." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. She had referred to breaking my heart as handling the Alex situation. It was just a task on her to-do list. I kept reading. I found the draft of the email she had sent to Alex from my account. She had saved it in her drafts folder. She had written and rewritten it, making sure it sounded plausible. She had even sent a test version to Carol, asking, "Does this sound like something a 28-year-old would write?" Carol had replied, "It is perfect, Helen. He will be gone in no time." I took pictures of all of it with my phone. The emails, the draft, the conversations with Carol. I had it all. The IP address, the social media post from David, the emails between my mother and her co-conspirator. This was undeniable. This was the proof Alex needed. This was the weapon I would use to destroy her carefully constructed world. I sent all the evidence to Alex in a compressed file. I did not write a long message. I just wrote, "Here is the proof you asked for. I am so sorry, Alex. This is all my fault. I should have seen what she was capable of." Then I logged out of her computer, shut it down, and went back to my room. I felt strangely calm. The anger was still there, simmering beneath the surface. But it was a cold, focused anger now. I was no longer a victim. I was an agent of justice. My mother had built a prison of lies around me, and I had just found the key. Now I just had to decide when and how to use it. I did not want to just expose her to Alex. I wanted to expose her to everyone. I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions in front of all the people whose opinions she cared about so much. Alex replied within the hour. His email was just a few words. I believe you. I am on the next flight out. I will be there tomorrow morning. Do not confront her alone. Wait for me. Reading those words, I finally let myself cry. But these were not tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. He believed me. He was coming back. We were going to face her together. The thought of seeing him again, of having him by my side, gave me the strength I needed to get through the next 24 hours. I had to keep up the act. I had to pretend to be the sad, broken daughter for one more day. I went downstairs for dinner. My mother had made my favorite meal. She was smiling, trying to cheer me up. I have some exciting news, she said as she served the food. Carol and I were talking, and we thought it would be lovely if you and David finally met. We are all going to have dinner together this Saturday. Is not that wonderful? I looked at her smiling face, her eyes shining with triumph. She thought she had won. She thought she had successfully manipulated me into her perfect little life plan. She had no idea that her world was about to come crashing down around her. I forced a small, weak smile. That sounds nice, Mom, I said. The performance was almost over. The final act was about to begin, and I was going to make sure it was a show she would never forget. All I had to do was wait for Alex. He was my partner, my ally. Together, we were going to pull back the curtain and show everyone the monster who had been hiding in plain sight. The next morning, I woke up early. I told my mother I was going for a walk to clear my head. She was delighted. That is a wonderful idea, sweetie, she said. Fresh air will do you good. I did not go for a walk. I drove to the airport. I waited by the arrivals gate, my heart pounding in my chest. I scanned the faces of the people coming through the doors, and then I saw him. He looked tired from the flight, but it was him. Our eyes met across the crowd. He started walking faster, and then he was running. I ran toward him. He wrapped his arms around me and lifted me off the ground. I buried my face in his neck and breathed him in. He was real. He was here. We were together again. I am so sorry, he whispered in my ear. I am so sorry I ever doubted you. I pulled back and looked at him. It is not your fault, I said. She is a master manipulator. She fooled both of us. We stood there for a long time, just holding each other. The missing piece of my life was back. Now we just had to deal with the person who had tried to steal it. We drove to a small cafe to talk. We had so much to catch up on. He told me more about what my mother had said to him. He said she had called him and told him I was feeling immense pressure from him to settle down. She said I felt like I was losing my identity in our relationship. She had played on all his deepest insecurities. Combined with the fake email and the blocked number, it had been a perfect storm of manipulation. He had been completely convinced that I wanted him gone. As he talked, my anger toward my mother grew hotter. She had not just lied. She had been cruel. She had intentionally inflicted the maximum amount of pain possible on both of us. What do we do now? He asked me. Do we just confront her? I shook my head. No, I said. A private confrontation is not enough. She will deny it. She will twist it. She will make me look crazy. We need an audience. We need to do this in a way that she cannot escape from. And that is when I thought of the dinner. The dinner she had planned for Saturday night to introduce me to my new hand-picked partner, David. It was the perfect stage. Her best friend and co-conspirator, Carol, would be there. David, the unwitting replacement, would be there. And my mother would be there, proud and triumphant, ready to show off her obedient daughter. It was her moment of victory, and we were going to turn it into her moment of utter humiliation. Alex was hesitant at first. He did not like the idea of such a public scene. He was a private person, but I convinced him. I told him this was not just about us. It was about making sure she could never do something like this again, to me or to anyone else. She needed to be exposed. He finally agreed. We had a plan. For the next 2 days, Alex stayed at a hotel. I went back to my mother's house and continued to play my part. I told her I was feeling a little better. I even let her take me shopping for a new dress to wear to the dinner on Saturday. She was thrilled. She thought her plan was working perfectly. She had no idea she was buying the costume for her own downfall. Saturday night arrived. I got ready for the dinner. I put on the new dress my mother had bought me. I did my hair and makeup. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a stranger. I looked calm and composed. But inside, I was a bundle of nerves and righteous fury. My mother was beaming when I came downstairs. "Oh, Maya," she said, clasping her hands together. "You look absolutely beautiful. David is going to be so impressed." I just smiled. "I hope so," I said. We drove to the restaurant. It was a fancy, expensive place. The kind of place my mother loved. The kind of place where people did not make a scene. Carol and David were already there, waiting at a table. Carol was my mother's twin in every way, from her perfectly styled hair to her predatory smile. David stood up when we approached. He was handsome, I suppose, in a generic, boring way. He shook my hand. His grip was a little too firm. "It is a pleasure to finally meet you, Maya," he said, his eyes roaming over me. "I have heard so much about you." "I bet you have," I thought. We all sat down. The first part of the dinner was excruciating. My mother and Carol did most of the talking. They talked about their charity work, their friends, their houses. David chimed in with stories about his work at the law firm. He was trying very hard to impress me. I just nodded and smiled and said as little as possible. I kept checking my phone under the table, waiting for the text from Alex. He was waiting at a bar down the street. The plan was for him to come in at exactly 8:30. As the clock ticked closer, my heart started to race. My mother was in the middle of a story about how proud she was of me for being so resilient after my unfortunate breakup. She placed her hand on my arm. "But I always say, everything happens for a reason," she said, looking meaningfully at David. "Sometimes you have to get through the rain to find the rainbow." David smiled at me. It was all so sickeningly perfect. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Alex. It said, "I am here." It was time. I took a deep breath. I placed my fork down on my plate. "Mom," I said, my voice clear and steady. Everyone at the table stopped talking and looked at me. "There is something I need to talk about." My mother's smile faltered for a second. "Of course, sweetie," she said. "What is it?" I looked her directly in the eye. "I want to talk about Alex," I said. Her face tightened. Carol shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "Maya, I really do not think this is the time or the place," my mother said, her voice low and warning. "We are having such a lovely evening." I ignored her. "You told me Alex broke up with me," I continued. "You told me he dropped off a box of my things and said he needed a clean break." My mother's eyes darted around the restaurant. She was starting to panic. "Maya, you are overwrought," she said, trying to pat my hand. I pulled my hand away. "Do not touch me," I said. My voice was cold. David and Carol were looking back and forth between us, their faces a mixture of confusion and alarm. "I know what you did, Mom," I said. "I know that you called him. I know that you blocked his number from my phone. I know that you used my laptop to send him a fake email pretending to be me, breaking up with him." My mother's face went white. Carol gasped. "Helen, what is she talking about?" Carol asked. My mother shook her head, trying to laugh it off. "She is just upset," she said. "She is heartbroken. She is not thinking clearly. She is making up stories." I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. "Am I?" I said. "Because I have some very interesting things to show you." And just at that moment, Alex walked into the restaurant. He walked right up to our table. He stood behind me and placed a hand on my shoulder. "Hello, Helen," he said. His voice was calm and level. My mother looked at him like she had seen a ghost. She opened and closed her mouth, but no words came out. Carol and David just stared, their jaws hanging open. I turned my phone around and showed the screen to everyone at the table. I started with the social media post from David, the one where he called my mother his future mother-in-law, weeks before I was single. David's face turned bright red. He looked at my mother, then at his own mother, Carol. "What is this?" he asked. "You told me she was available." Before my mother could answer, I swiped to the next picture. It was a screenshot of the emails between my mother and Carol, planning the whole thing. I read one of them out loud. "Maya's work trip is the perfect opportunity. I will handle the Alex situation." Carol looked like she was going to be sick. "Helen, you promised me you would be discreet," she whispered frantically. My mother just stared at me, her eyes filled with a rage I had never seen before. "You went through my computer?" she hissed. "That is a violation of my privacy." "And what do you call impersonating me to destroy my relationship?" I shot back. "What do you call systematically lying to me and the man I love for weeks? What do you call trying to puppet master my entire life?" I swiped to the final piece of evidence. The draft of the email. I read the most damning line where she had asked Carol if it sounded like something a 28-year-old would write. The whole table was silent. The other diners in the restaurant were starting to stare. My mother looked around, her face a mask of horror and humiliation. She had been exposed in her favorite restaurant in front of her best friend and in front of the man she had chosen to be my new partner. She had nowhere to run. She had no lies left to tell. David was the first one to speak. He pushed his chair back and stood up. He looked at my mother with utter contempt. "You're insane," he said to her. Then he looked at his own mother. "And you are a part of this? I cannot believe you." He threw his napkin down on the table. "I am leaving," he announced, and then he turned and walked out of the restaurant without a second glance. Carol burst into tears. "Helen, how could you?" she sobbed. "You have ruined everything." My mother did not seem to hear her. She was still just staring at me. Her face was a storm of conflicting emotions, but the overriding one was hatred. She hated me for taking away her control. She hated me for exposing her. I stood up. Alex's hand was still on my shoulder, a solid, comforting weight. "We are leaving now," I said to my mother. "I am going to go pack the rest of my things from your house. I will be staying with Alex. Do not call me. Do not text me. Do not try to contact me in any way. We are done. Until you can give a full, honest, and public apology to both me and to Alex for what you did, you are no longer my mother. You are just the woman who tried to ruin my life." I turned and walked away. Alex was right beside me. We did not look back. We walked out of the restaurant and into the cool night air. I took a deep breath. It was the first breath of fresh air I had taken in weeks. It was the breath of freedom. The heavy blanket was gone, and I was never going to let her put it on me again. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Carol called my mother the next day and ended their 30-year friendship. Apparently, her son David was so disgusted by the whole affair that he refused to speak to her until she cut my mother out of her life. My mother's carefully curated social world began to crumble. The story spread like wildfire through her circle of friends. She had tried to paint me as an unstable, ungrateful daughter, but the evidence was too strong. Too many people had seen the screenshots. Too many people had heard the story from Carol. For the first time in her life, my mother was the subject of the gossip, not the one spreading it. She was isolated and alone, a position she had worked her whole life to avoid. My father called me a few days later. He and my mother had been divorced for years, but they remained cordial. He had heard the story from a mutual friend. He was shocked but not surprised. "Your mother always had a problem with boundaries, Maya," he said sadly. "I am so sorry she did this to you. You did the right thing by standing up to her." His support meant the world to me. It was a validation that I was not the crazy one. I was not the problem. She was. My extended family was divided. Some of my aunts and uncles called to offer support. Others called to tell me I was being cruel to my mother. They said I should forgive her. They said she only did it because she loved me. I told them that love is not about control and deception. I told them that if they could not see that, then I did not have anything more to say to them. I was drawing new lines in my life, and anyone who stood on my mother's side was on the wrong side of that line. Alex and I moved back into our apartment. It took a few weeks for things to feel normal again. The trust between us had been damaged. Not by each other, but by an outside force. We had to work to rebuild it. We talked for hours. We were honest about our fears and our hurt. He admitted that a small part of him had been quick to believe her lies because he was insecure about our future. I admitted that I had enabled my mother's behavior for years by not setting firm boundaries. We were both wounded, but we were healing together. Our relationship was stronger than ever. We had faced the worst, and we had survived. We were a team. About a month after the dinner, I got a letter in the mail. It was from my mother. It was a long, rambling letter full of self-pity and excuses. She said she was sorry for the misunderstanding. She said she had been worried about me, and that her judgment had been clouded by love. She never once took full responsibility for her actions. She never once admitted to the depth of her lies. At the end of the letter, she wrote, "I hope one day you can find it in your heart to forgive your loving mother." I read the letter and I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a kind of empty pity for her. She was incapable of seeing what she had done wrong. She would never change. I took the letter and I threw it in the trash. I did not reply. My silence was my answer. Life moved on. Alex got a new job in our city, a better one than he had before. We adopted a dog, a little scruffy terrier we named Buster. We started talking about the future again, but this time it was our future, on our terms. We were building a life that was free from my mother's influence. Every now and then, I would hear things about her. I heard she had tried to apologize to Carol, but Carol had refused to see her. I heard she had become reclusive, that she barely left her house. She had gotten what she wanted. She had me out of her life. But she had also lost everything else that mattered to her. Her friends, her social standing, her reputation. She was alone in the big house with nothing but her own choices to keep her company. One day, about a year later, I was at the grocery store. I turned a corner, and there she was. She was standing in the canned goods aisle. She looked older. Her hair was not as perfectly styled. Her clothes were not as pristine. She looked tired. She looked small. She saw me at the same moment I saw her. Her eyes widened. She took a step toward me, a hopeful, desperate look on her face. "Maya?" she said, her voice a cracked whisper. I just looked at her. I saw the woman who had given birth to me, but I also saw the woman who had tried to break me. I saw the manipulator. I saw the liar. I saw the person who had hurt me and the man I loved more than anyone in the world. I did not say anything. I just turned my cart around and walked away, down a different aisle. I did not look back. I had nothing left to say to her. My future was ahead of me, bright and full of love and choices that were all my own. And she was not in it. She had made her choice and I had made mine. And I was finally, truly free. I stopped giving warnings. I realized that some people only learn when they face the consequences they have earned. They finally learned what it feels like to be small, to be powerless, to be alone. She had spent my whole life trying to control my story, but in the end, I was the one who got to write the final chapter. And it was a happy one.